Hi, my name is Emily Deacon, and I am here to talk to you about stress, coping, and general well-being. Now, we're all stressed, right? We go through stress every day, whether or not we realize it. Sometimes we experience stress without even fully noticing that we are even stressed until it gets to a point where you have to notice it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And the first thing I'm going to define is the 3 types of stress. There are 3 types of stress categories. The first category is called cataclysmic stress, and that is when there is a large event that happens that affects a very large amount of people altogether. For example, this might be a plane crash, a school shooting, a natural disaster that's affecting hundreds of people at the same time. Everyone's experiencing that stress, and there are change after that event. The second type of stress is called personal stress, and a personal stress would be something like a big event in your own life, but not something that's affecting hundreds of people. For example, this could be planning a wedding, having a new baby, starting a new job, or getting fired. All of these types of events will drastically affect one person's life, but not necessarily dozens or hundreds of people. The third type of stress is called background stress, and this is the type of stress that we experience the most often. It's because it happens subtly and in the background. This type of stress is something like driving in traffic, writing a paper for school, or packing your lunch, or maybe going to the gym every day, if that's something that stresses you out about going, right? Day-to-day activities that we do that we have to deal with and roll with the punches, right? There's another type of stress, and it's called post-traumatic stress syndrome, PTSD. Oftentimes, this is experienced by people who have gone through a cataclysmic event or a big personal stress, and after that main stress event happens, they get triggered by something, and it almost brings back that original stress as if it was real, except that it's not. So oftentimes PTSD is experienced in dreams, or by something subtly happening in the day-to-day life of a person that reminds them of that stressful event. When you get stressed out, your body responds biologically, and your biological responses to stress are increased hormone production by your adrenal glands. You have an increase in heart rate and blood pressure, and additionally, you lose your fine motor skills. Your sense of touch is decreased because your body is making other things happen at that time, so you lose your major functions of your body that work oftentimes, but not when you're under stress. Short term, these biological body functions will help you cope with the stress at that time. However, if you keep creating these stressful situations and your body keeps responding in stressful situations, eventually you will run down your body and it will not respond the same way as you start getting exposed to other stressors. There's a model that explains stress really well in three steps. It's called the GAS model, the General Adaptation Syndrome model, and it models how we respond to stress. The first indication of stress is alarm and mobilization. That means your body is recognizing that it's under stress. You're realizing you are getting stressed. The second one is called resistance. If the stress continues, then your body and your mind are going to find a way to alleviate that stress so that you can return to a normal state of functioning. The last step of the GAS model is called exhaustion, and that's when your body can no longer deal with the stress, so it just shuts down, which gives your body a chance to reboot itself in order to deal with that stress. Psychoneuroimmunology states that there are 3 main consequences of stress. The first is your body, right? Increased blood pressure, increased hormonal activity, and overall decline in function with your immune system in your body. The second thing is coping behaviors. You can pick up some bad coping behaviors in order to deal with stress. These coping behaviors include using nicotine, drugs, or alcohol, not having good eating habits, and decreased sleep. All 3 of these things bring down your immune system even more. And lastly, you are unlikely to seek medical attention if you are stressed out, because it's just another thing to process and deal with. And if you do seek medical attention, there's less of a chance that you're going to take that medical attention to heart if you are under these stressful situations. Coping is a way to deal with stress, and there's different kinds of coping methods. There's emotional coping, which is seeking support from others, receiving empathy from others, or changing your mental state and thinking about the brighter side of the situation. There's also problem-solving coping mechanisms, which deals with the behavior and a plan of action for dealing with your stress. People use both or one of these coping mechanisms, and often people use the same coping mechanism because people are creatures of habit. Avoidant coping and defense mechanisms. Both of these situations, you're avoiding the problem, right? That's not good. You are thinking about other ways or other things that are happening instead of actually dealing with the stress firsthand. You can go into emotional insulation, which is experiencing nothing. You don't experience sadness or depression, but you also don't experience happiness or joy. There's also something called learned helplessness. And learned helplessness is when you feel like you have no power to influence a situation and you just give up. So that's a different kind of, defense mechanism and coping mechanism. There are two types of personality traits that help people to deal with stress. The first one is called hardiness. And hardiness is defined by three things. It's defined by commitment, challenge, and control. If a person's hardy, they feel like they're committed to figuring out the problem. They see the problem as a challenge instead of a threat. And finally, they feel like they have the control and the resources in order to change the outcome. There's also something called resilience, and resilience is the ability to withstand, overcome, and actually thrive after a profound adversity. So a resilient person would be optimistic, good-natured, usually independent, but also has good social skills, so if they need to ask for help, they can. And they rise to the occasion of figuring out how to overcome these stressors. So overall, resilience is positive change that people experience as a result of a traumatic event. Finally, one of the most important things that can help people deal with stress is having a social network. Being part of a mutual network of caring, interested people enables us to experience lower levels of stress, better cope with the stress, and experience better health in general because you're feeling important, you're feeling valued, you're feeling supported, and you know that you have physical aid in case it's necessary. And also having other people around you can make a threatening situation seem less threatening. So overall, stress is something that you want to avoid, but at times can help you to grow through resilience and little stresses. So that's our presentation.